Hello, everyone. I am your host, Ahad Hussain, and welcome to Season 5 of Titan Alumni Talks, a weekly podcast where we talk to alumni about their experiences at Cal State Fullerton. For this week's episode, we have Rebecca Meza, who is the Associate Director of Communications at the CSUF Alumni Engagement Office. She graduated in 2007 with a bachelor's in public relations and a minor in Spanish. Listen as we talk about how she started her own business and the importance of getting involved on campus. You can catch these episodes live at 10 p.m. on Wednesdays at titanradio.org, or you can watch all past episodes on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/CSUF Alumni. You can also now catch us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Stitcher Radio. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, for inviting me on.
No problem. I kind of had to. It was only fitting. So for the people who don't know, both of us work at the Cal State Fullerton Alumni Office. And I host the podcast, and Rebecca's part of the social media team and in charge of all the communication. So she'll definitely get into that as we go on. But let's just start at the beginning at Cal State Fullerton. So you graduated with a bachelor's in public relations and you had a minor in Spanish. So when did this passion start for public relations?
So I was in high school in the early 2000s, right? And so I'm originally from a small town, El Centro, California. It's a very small town east of San Diego, right before Arizona. And so the high school I went to, the one kind of blessing and takeaway from my senior or junior year was we had a little bit of a career center, and I remember they had us take kind of an assessment of strengths and whatnot. And it told you at the end of this what types of careers you might be good at. And I remember because I was part of the assignment was take this assessment and then find out what it is and then try to interview someone in that industry. And so I remember public relations was one of my results. And I was like, I never heard of this. So I grew up in the newspaper business. My parents owned a newspaper and back home in our hometown. And so I grew up kind of more on that journalism side and being just with people, in front of people and whatnot, and communications on that front. But I never heard of the field of public relations. And so, of course, I looked into it. There was one person in the entire county where I'm from that had that as a title, and so as a job title. So I was able to interview her. And I was like, gosh, I want to do this. Like, you're basically the spokesperson for whomever you're working for, and that's what she did. And so I thought it was very interesting when it came to time for college and looking at different schools. Cal State Fullerton communication program is what really just kind of it got me. That was why I'm here.
That's a bit of a background on how you got here. And then once you got here, it's not like you just went to your classes and you went home. You did quite a bit here as well. So I guess like the first question is kind of like an obvious answer. So you lived on campus, I guess like the first, or you didn't?
No, I didn't.
You
I
commuted.
yeah. So what's interesting is, again, when you're first gen, you don't know a lot of these things, and so I truly sympathize with our students of just like not knowing what to do. And so I remember there was one person from my high school that was also coming here, and because it's a small town, it was like, oh, so and so's going to Cal State Fullerton too. So we connected, and we actually found a place off campus, like down the street, together. Both of our families were more comfortable, like kind of letting us kind of go to this unknown town if we had each other. And so I ended up living off campus. And then I always talk about my college experience as kind of two different experiences, because within one, because my first 2 years I was so shy. I was super shy, and it was very hard to break out of the shell because you're still kind of grasping onto the like high school relationships and friendships, and not really wanting to immerse yourself here yet. And so that was my comfort zone. And so it truly wasn't until the last 2 years where I was super involved, and the catalyst for that was becoming an orientation leader. Once I became an orientation leader, then it was like the doors fully opened and I wanted to join everything. You know, I was part of PRSSA, the Public Relations Student Organization, and joined a sorority and did orientation, campus tours, and then ASI. So that was truly like what opened kind of the world to me. So I did work on campus though while I was here. So that also helped, is just to kind of be acclimated with the campus. And I worked at the bookstore, Titan shop, and then later went on to they opened up the juice setup in the TSU because there only used to be one, the trailer. And so when they opened that second one, I was like, I want to make smoothies. So ended up working there as well.
Did they give you free smoothies for working or no?
You were able to have one free smoothie per shift. So yes.
Well, only one. Wow. I guess that's a lot of fruit or vegetables that go into the smoothie, but it seems like you kind of like broke out of your shell. You had to step out of your comfort zone. And I guess it was like a domino effect or a snowball effect, where once you decided, hey, look, I'm going to actually be active on campus. I'm going to join some clubs. I'm going to just be a part of the community, because it is a community. Then like you just kind of felt that you belonged there. So I guess it's just like you have to take that first step initially. So to like freshmen and sophomores, if you don't know like what you're doing, I saw someone earlier today on campus who was staring at one of like the campus maps, and I know that like it might be easier just to look at that, but it's also a lot nicer if you just ask other people, because that's kind of how you make friends, you meet new people, and that's how you step out of your comfort zone. Is I know a lot of people have anxiety, they might be shy, but you kind of just have to do that. That's how life is, and that's how you make friends, make connections, and find out where your place is and what fits right with you.
Absolutely. I think I know that they use this term a lot when I was in school, of commuter campus. And I as someone that transplanted, you know, like I moved from my comfort zone, my hometown, and I would see these cliques of friends that they either went to high school together, they knew each other from their town, and they lived in the surrounding areas. I had no idea like what was around. I didn't know the communities around. I remember one of my first times I got lost in this area was because I was on Chapman, but in Orange. I was like, there's two Chapmans? Like, I didn't know.
And it's finding those like close knit groups. Like you said, if you find a job on campus, you might not have a ton of coworkers or like students. You might only have like 2 or 3, and then seeing them every day or every couple of days, it builds that bond between you two. And then again, with those clubs as well, you do feel like you belong, because those groups of like 10, 20, 30 students are people you see all the time. And it's just building those long-term connections with those small groups of people. And then the next year you come onto campus, and then on the first day you're having lunch with them, on the first day you're walking to class with them, because and you don't feel left out like you did your freshman year, where you just felt like you came from a random town like 3 hours away from Cal State Fullerton.
Absolutely. So, and with like PRSSA specifically, just speaking of like majors in your career path, it's interesting because I did get involved. It might have been my second year that I just started kind of attending meetings, but again, was like back of the room, like super shy. But it's interesting, all of the connections you make on campus, you never know where people go. And like, that is the only way you can start your network. And that's the only way, especially if you do join the clubs and organizations that are specific to what interests you in your career field. I can tell you, there's been a handful of folks that I went to school with that have very successful careers. And I'm so happy and like grateful that we had those student experiences where we went to a conference together as a group and things like that, but nothing replaces that. Like, even though I may not talk to them on a daily, or I may not see them all the time often, I know that if I ever needed anything, it is that phone call away of like, hey, remember me? Like, they know who I am. Like, we had those student experiences. So, I'm not going to be calling and asking for a million favors, but when you do need that one, it's there because you have these shared experiences. So I would say that's kind of the biggest selling point on getting involved and getting, becoming a part of these different groups on campus, because that in itself is your network already that you're building.
And PRSSA, I feel so left out, because I feel like everyone in their entire family has joined PRSSA, and I feel like it's an exclusive club that like I'm the only one who's not in it. It feels like such a big thing. And then
We're inclusive. You can join the
I mean,
PRSA
like
family.
everyone's just a part of it, and like I see on everyone's like bio, or everyone's connected to each other because of PRSSA, even if they're like 5, 6 years apart in like graduation date. It's like, hey, we were both in PRSSA together, so there's one thing in common. And then you actually
Yeah.
moved up to be the VP of PRSSA. So I guess
Mhm.
like the longer you're in the
Mhm.
club, you can like, kind of foster those relationships
Mhm.
and sort of move up from like just a member who shows up frequently to being the VP of it. Like that's a pretty big
Mhm.
thing. Also during that time, you did a couple of internships as well. So a couple of them are pretty notable. Like you worked at Capitol Records for a bit. So tell me about like your internship journey, and when did you feel it was the right time to get an internship? Because a lot of people don't do it their first year, right? So when did you feel, hey, look, I should look for something, and how did you kind of find it?
So a couple of pieces there. I've always been a very organized individual, and like I brought myself to Cal State Fullerton to college, so it was one of those like I figured it out. However, the one wisdom kind of piece of wisdom I'd like to just share is, so again, very organized, and I thought, let me get all of the, I was already having fun the last 2 years of college experience, so I kind of organized my classes and whatnot to kind of make sure that I checked off all the important stuff in the first semester, so that my last semester at Cal State Fullerton, I can, squeeze in some fun and things like that. However, I don't know if that was the best idea, because even though I was very fortunate to land a very exciting and just like once in a lifetime type of internship, I'll tell you about the downfall in just 1 second. My process on how to apply to an internship. So I did end up choosing to complete that in my final year in the fall semester. And so I ended up applying to paid and unpaid internships. My goal was, at the time, I wanted to go into the entertainment industry, specifically music industry. And so I applied to everything out there. And the two internships I ended up securing were at MTV Network and at Capitol Records. Hardest decision of my life. I was like, I love them both, and having walked through the offices and seeing kind of what the culture was like and things, they both seemed really interesting. However, with MTV Network, they had a whole intern type of cubicle, and it was like, this is where all the interns sit, and this is what they're gonna do, and da da da. And then when at Capitol, it felt very personal, and not to mention, historic, legendary building in the heart of Hollywood. And so I'm just like, yeah, I don't know. Like, and the people that I met with at Capitol just felt like they wanted to help me in my journey. They wanted to take the time to get to know me. So I ended up choosing Capitol Records. And on that note, I did make an impression with the folks that were in that department. And so there ended up being an assistant position that opened up right as I was going to end my internship. So they asked me, would you apply? Because we'd want to bring you on. And I said, I still have 1 semester left of school. So I was like, I don't know if I can do this, like work a full-time job. And so I opted to not. The lesson there, and what I share with students, is think about when you intern, and if that opportunity were to happen, because it happened to me. It doesn't always happen, an internship doesn't guarantee a job offer, but sometimes it does happen. And so just keep that in mind when planning out your final year. And the second piece is, in a way, it was a blessing that I wasn't able to take it, because music went digital like months later. And so a lot of the people, unfortunately, that I worked with were laid off.
So I guess the lesson there is that school, I guess, is like the number one priority. Make sure that you do get that degree, just to have something to fall back on, just in case something like this happens.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you did take that job opportunity, who knows, you might have still had that job and maybe would have led to something else with that experience. But you also could have gotten laid off, and then with it, they would have seen that, hey, look, you didn't finish your degree, and you just weren't there for a few months. So I guess I guess the number one
Mm-hmm.
thing is just make sure you finish your school, even though
Yeah.
some things look like they're a once in a lifetime experience. If it
Mm-hmm.
interferes too much with what you're trying to do and accomplish at university, then maybe put a hold off on it or try and see if you can
Mm-hmm.
negotiate maybe less hours or maybe to hold on the position until you graduate or have more time.
And the best thing you could do is take care of those relationships. That's the best thing because the supervisor I had at the time, like I said, I still keep in touch with her, and I remember she had to shift jobs and industries, and so it's been interesting to just keep in touch with folks. You never know, when you're gonna need a hand or be able to help someone either.
All right, so after that, I know you did some work at ASI, and ASI is always one of
Mm-hmm.
those things that it's like the student body government, and I don't know, it's a little I can't say too much about it. I don't know if you would like to say anything about ASI.
Well, that job lead and that opportunity was thanks to my involvement with orientation and that group of students because I remember it was again I had interned in the fall and so in the spring, let's just say I had a little time, not really, but I had some time and I wanted to be on campus and maximize my time on campus. So um, there was the job opportunity of being an elections commissioner. Elections happen in the spring, and so I was like, okay, well, this is the perfect opportunity to bring everything I've been learning in the classroom and my experience in the student life and environment on campus and try to make something happen. So my responsibility was voter turnout, so to try to do outreach and incentivize students to vote. But then the other part of it was just enforcing bylaws and making sure no one's doing anything, super sketch. So, so that's where I came in and luckily had great advisors. They were actually the same advisors from orientation. So that was all great. And I think that's the story there of just, that was my extent of experience with ASI was more on the outside because had to be a neutral party, but it was very intense. It was interesting, and of course, it ended up being this should be an easy kind of part-time job of executing elections, and of course, it was highly contested. It required a runoff, so there has to be like a second election, so second round of votes, and so I was like, gosh, you guys, I'm in finals, I'm in all these things, but as part of the student experience, it's the best.
Yeah, it's right before graduation as well, and you're looking for
Mm-hmm.
jobs, and like ASI is saying, you got to do some more work, a little bit more than you bargained for, but I mean that's
Yeah.
kind of the fun of university. Like you never know what's going to happen, and just take those opportunities, just see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Go with the
Mm-hmm.
flow. So after that, you got your first real job, right, at Torrid. So I guess it was Hot Topic, or uh, I guess I'll just toss this off to you. So tell me a little bit about
Yeah.
what the company is and what your role was over there, and basically, yeah, just give a rundown on what like a day in the life was at Torrid.
Absolutely. So, well, the important thing to also not skip over is so I graduated and I did attend every career fair, every workshop, leading up to graduation, but I didn't truly land my first job until July. And so when, commencement's in May and you secure your first job out of college in July, that time felt like an eternity. Like it was like going on all these job interviews, submitting a million resumes out there. And so, and I did, I mentioned how busy that spring semester was for me, but still trying to squeeze in the time to apply to jobs and things like that. But it truly didn't all come together until July. And so that's important to set kind of an expectation. Not everyone lands a job before graduation, and it does take a little time, and you will get a lot of rejections, but it's all worth it in the end of the right one lines up. And so so I ended up taking a paid internship with it was Hot Topic, the umbrella company. They had a few companies within the umbrella. One of them was Torrid, which was a women's plus size fashion. again, I aspired to be in the music industry, entertainment industry, and somehow landed in fashion, which I knew nothing about. I was a hoodies and jeans type of student at Cal State Fullerton. So I was like, this is not what I know. So out of my comfort zone, but they did like that I was right out of college and they had plans for social media and things. And so back then in 2007, MySpace was a player in the social media industry. So Facebook was kind of still very college focused, not really used as it is now. And Twitter was in the field as well. So all these different platforms were out there, and so they wanted someone to be able to communicate with the customer, the consumer. And so I did a little bit of that, did a little public relations, events, and what was very great about that company and the culture there was they really wanted you to learn. Like they wanted you to learn and grow. And if there was an idea, because it was a young, company, like it was the audience and the customer was young, they wanted us to be cutting edge. And so if there was something that was, we can use Facebook like this. And so they were like, really? Like they were always open to it, learning and growing. And so I was very lucky that the leadership team that I had in that marketing department, they really coached me and taught me so much. Everything from planning runway shows to executing a nationwide campaign and things like that. So then I did get experience in planning on the creative side, runway shows, things like that, just being creative, photo shoots, to all the way to executing a nationwide national marketing campaign and things, and acquiring, because I know we launched a credit card while I was there, so acquiring members for the credit card and things like that. So I was very lucky to have great leaders and mentors on that front.
So it looks like working in PR and communications isn't just one industry where a lot of people might think, hey, look, I can only work here, but already you switch from music to fashion in like just a quick switch in a year, right? And in doing so,
Yeah.
you're doing a lot of work that it's kind of similar in a broad sense, but if you look down on like the deep end of it, is they're both like specific niches, but it's something that as long as you have that degree, as long as you have that background and experience or a passion for PR and communications, you can find a job anywhere. So it's like I was talking to someone else about it as well. This is one of those one of those careers where you can choose your specific industry and choose what companies you want to represent, what type of brands you want to represent, instead of let's say you get a job in healthcare and you have to work just in healthcare because you don't have that background. I'm not saying like healthcare is bad, but it's kind of like one of those unique aspects of PR and graduating with a degree in communications.
And I will say that that was what the hook for me to accept the job with Torrid, because the Hot Topic culture was very music driven. And so they had artists that would sometimes drop in and play a couple songs. Like there was, I don't know if you know this band, but I remember there one Halloween, because Hot Topic, Halloween was a big thing. And so everyone's in costumes because it's Halloween. And they were like, oh, we have a surprise performance. And they called it the family room. And it was this little room in the middle of the office. And so we all show up and it's All American Rejects. And we're like, okay, this is kind of a big band for a little surprise concert. So like it was things like that I was like, I love this job, like and just the culture. And so there's trade-offs in any job of what is it that's important to you. And so at that time, I loved the culture, the people, and the opportunity to learn and do things, because it wasn't very structured. It was, the job was what you made of it. And so when they hired me full time, I was able to do all the things, and I enjoyed and loved doing all the different parts of it. So that was very, very interesting, and it's what kind of helped set me up for the rest of my career, because I did get experience in these different areas.
I see. So after your work at Torrid, you kind of had a unique experience, we can say, at USC. So you started working there for a bit, and then you got your master's from USC and graduated and left at the same time. So that's kind of a lot that went on there. So I guess like the first question I have is, why did you believe that you had to jump from one career to the next? And when should students kind of have an idea of hey, look, maybe this job has reached my personal growth level. Is there something else that I can do at another company?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I'll be very open and vulnerable about this. But it is so I loved my time at Torrid at Hot Topic. There was some transition happening, some leadership transition. It was a public company, and so there was some leadership stuff happening that I didn't really understand. And it was during my time there that the first set of layoffs happened in the company's like 15-year history. And so my thought was like, I don't know what this organizational change means. And so that's the only reason why I started putting kind of my resume out there and applying to different jobs, because I didn't know what that meant. And so out of all of the jobs I applied for, out of everything I did, the one job that I didn't think would call me back called me back. And that was the job at USC, because it was the communications officer for their global initiatives department. Had no idea what that was. You know, I aside from being a college student at Cal State Fullerton, I didn't know the structure at higher ed and different universities and things. And it being a private, I had no idea. So I was just like, let's just go to this interview and see how it goes. And so, again, a job that felt really out of my league. And so when I went and had my interview, I was very honest of like, this is the experience I bring from Torrid. I mean, I don't know how it correlates with the work in global initiatives, but this is what I've done. And so then ended up getting hired there. And I asked my boss at one point, like, why me out of the candidates with PhDs and things like that? And he said, it's because I could see your work ethic. You're a hard worker, and that's what I needed, because we built an international academy while I was there. There's a lot of research that went behind that, and I did. Yours truly here did the research. So I like learned so much. And so the reason why I took that job and took that leap, because I wanted to expand what I was learning. Like, yes, I was hands-on with social marketing and things like that, but I knew I needed to further my education. Grad school was a thought while I was here at Cal State Fullerton, but I never made it a plan. Like, I'm going to go after, 5 years out or whatnot. And so what I talked about in terms of like the decisions you make kind of start leading you on a path. When I took that job, I didn't know that part of the benefits package when you're an employee there, they do tuition assistance. And so I was like, how would I not, take advantage of a degree here? And I knew that I only had, Hot Topic for it under my belt, and then USC. So I was like, gosh, I need to expand my experience. I don't have experience in different areas and different industries. So I decided to launch, and it was always a dream of mine from when I left my small town of El Centro to launch Mesa Communication.
Talking about USC, I guess like a big selling point and a bit of advice that you can give is do not sell yourself short. Just because you think that a job is out of your league, like what's the worst that's going to happen? You're just going to get the rejection email or rejection letter, and then you can apply later on. It's not like you're completely cut out from the application pool. And even if you do get it and you feel it's not a right fit, then just don't take the job or leave and try and find another job. But applying won't hurt you. And a lot of times, like the work that you do, like, yeah, getting a degree is important in a lot of fields. And it is something that we should strive for to become like an educated society. But just because you have a ton of degrees doesn't mean you're more qualified or just as qualified as the next candidate who has one degree, but a lot of that work ethic, a lot of that knowledge that you can just pick up from different jobs and just from being around other people. So I guess that's like goes to show that, hey, look, instead of maybe just like striving for like, hey, I can get all these degrees, it's like, hey, can you get the work experience and that personal growth that you need to be applicable for a lot of these jobs. So then you, like you mentioned, you decided to leave USC after you got the degree as well. Right after you just finessed them from their tuition. and then you started your own company. So you're an entrepreneur, right? Starting your own company is not something that I guess a lot of people can experience or relate to. So how was it like, just starting off, maybe telling family or friends, hey, look, I'm leaving a stable job to start my own company in working with social media. And that was kind of I mean, like in 2016, it was still prominent, but not nowhere near as much as it is 5 years later. So how did that conversation go, or what were like the initial thoughts in your head? And yeah, just tell us what you do at your own company as well.
Yeah. Well, so again, I worked full time at SC and then went to school part time, so evening classes. And so it took me 3 years. And in those 3 years, like my first year, I was like, should I start kind of designing my logo? And like, because I already had that in mind. That was always like an ultimate goal, and it still is, it's still in the background. And um, so I started very small steps to try to kind of get there. And it was in the final year that the more I talked about it, the more I wanted it to become real, and had the support of classmates. And even my own boss at the time was like, no, if you feel this is the right move for you, because it was also the job I was doing had reached its cap. And I was like, gosh, do you think there's opportunity for growth here? And he goes, we're a 4-man team, like, and this is kind of it. So if you want more, then go out and get more. And so there was that support. And I honestly, at that point, it was rely on your network. And so it was all of the folks I had met there, as well as my Titan network, all of the colleagues I had from Cal State Fullerton. So it was truly through word of mouth of, hey, this is my new venture, this is what I'm going to do, and started creating my own content of what is method communications going to be. And so the mission was because my parents are small business owners, I wanted to help small businesses. And so that was great. I got a lot of experience there, but it was just very interesting because it's not until you're out there 100% of the time, like that you make that your full-time job of networking, joining organizations. There was you'd meet one person, they'd tell you about one thing, and then that would lead to another. Everything started connecting. And so next thing you knew, I had this little like network of people, like, oh, I had a mentor, I had this, and I would get invited to certain places. And so I was like, gosh, like, how did this happen? But it's really just being out there and going to things. And, that shy Rebecca that started at Cal State Fullerton was gone at that time because I had to be out there. And sometimes I'd get invited to networking mixers, things like that. I went by myself. And so it was meeting people and offering my services. I would say 70% of the services turned out to be something, or leads would turn out to be something and paid. Others ended up being pro bono, or it was like there was a connection, and it was like, gosh, like I want to help them out, I'll do this part for them. But it was all part of the struggle of starting and getting your name out there.
Yeah, I've talked to a couple people now who started their own business or working on startups, and that is the common theme, that you do have to put in a full 100%. It is very difficult to have a full-time job and try and do this as a side project, because then it just keeps getting delayed, and you keep saying, oh, I'll do it next week, and then following week, and then it just becomes a thought that never comes to fruition. But yeah, just putting in all that work. So I guess that's like the first thing that people should know if they're thinking of starting a business or becoming an entrepreneur. Yeah, it's good if it pays off, but you do have to put in a lot of work for it to eventually pay off. So I guess you can attest to that more than anyone else, that you did have to hustle. It's a lot of unpaid work sometimes, and even if it's paid, it may not be the most money in right away, but eventually if you do put in that hard work, then it can lead to quite a bit. It's time for the quick fire question. So you already know how this goes. You're the one who probably has all the answers to these. So the first one is coffee versus tea. Coffee. What's your favorite type of coffee?
Iced.
Iced coffee. Okay. And then this is an important question. What was better, undergrad or grad school?
Undergrad.
Right, it has to be. You're on a Cal State Fullerton podcast, working at Cal State Fullerton,
and it's my beginning. Like you can't go anywhere without the start. So
you have to remember the roots, like where you started from.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, are you an early bird or a night owl?
Early bird. Sadly, so sad. I used to be a night owl.
And what is the most recent song played on Spotify or like Apple Music, whichever one you use?
Spotify? Like, do I literally open it up?
Yeah, yeah, open it up. Like I want to see what's the
Let's
most
see.
recent.
This was what I was jamming to on my drive in. Oh, I was a little emo. Dashboard confessionals.
Oh, okay.
Heartbeat
Okay.
here.
Emo music. That's not my cup of tea. I don't I don't know anything about that. I would have to refer that to a couple of my friends, but no, that's not me. I feel like if I ever get asked that, then I would have to lie. I feel like at certain times, like my certain moods, I can't, let people know. I have to hide it sometimes.
Well, as my friend said, a notable friend of mine recently said, "Gosh, you have such range when it comes to music choices." So,
So what is the work that you do at the Alumni Association office, and how did you kind of come into this role of working here instead of, I guess, any other department on campus?
well, what called me to this role and why I wanted to throw my hat in it and the application pool was it was not only the opportunity to bring all of the different communication skill sets that I had gained throughout my time, like my career, everything from the hot topic time to consulting. And so not only the opportunity to bring that back to Cal State Fullerton back home, but to actually talk to my peers, like talk to fellow alumni. And so it feels very personal to me. And so it can't be personal because we have different, a very diverse audience. We have over 300,000 Cal State Fullerton alumni, all from different walks of life, career paths, age ranges, but they're all, people just like you and I that came to school here, and whatever time they did, and had very similar experiences. We all experience very similar things, and so we have that common ground. And so to be able to do that for a living, I was like, gosh, like I truly, I think at that time, because I was consulting 1,000% of the time, this is the only random kind of job I ever applied to, because I was doing my hustle, but I was like, gosh, if I were to get that, I mean, I could see the fit, and that would be great. But otherwise, I was happy doing mass communication. So when I ended up getting this job, I was like, okay, that was my sign. Like, I kind of bring it all, bring it all back home, and try to, whatever existed, try to further that, And so that was kind of where I was excited to take this role.
So what does a day in the job kind of look like for you? Like starting from like Monday, like what's like the first thing you're gonna do on Monday, and then how does your week sort of end? And is it something that is the same seasonally? Because I know working on a campus, you do have those winter breaks, Thanksgiving breaks, you do have summer breaks, and then there are a lot of like things like randomly happening. So how does like a day in the life kind of look like, and what really happens at the alumni house?
So, like, there was like twofold in there, and I want to make sure I meet both of them. But the first one is going back to being the early bird and whatnot. I like to set myself up and my staff, students, everyone up. So Mondays are big kind of planning days. We have a leadership meeting on Mondays. So myself, the senior director, and the assistant vice president meet every Monday to make sure, kind of our check-in of projects that are happening, things that are happening with staff, things like that. So anything from HR related things to just projects. And so deadlines and things. So and strategy as well. So those happen every Monday. But I also meet with, you mentioned earlier at the beginning, is I oversee the social media team. So I like to meet with them on Mondays as well, so we can go through our content calendar and anything that might be happening, or hey, let's not miss this like National Day of this, and etc. Like, does it make sense for us, for our audience? So also have those strategy meetings on Mondays as well. And with my, I oversee our graphic designer slash web developer slash, he wears a lot of different hats. So meet with him on Mondays as well to go through our week. Like, what are our priority projects? If we get to Friday and we completed these things, great. If we could do more, that'd be even better. But at least these are the priorities, because in the end, we all only have so many hours in the day. So we have to kind of outline the priorities, like these are the things. In terms of seasonal kind of routines and things like that, the great thing about a college campus is you have your summer, that's orientation and welcoming students. And then you've got your fall, like the start of the semester and whatnot, and your break. But the neat thing about our office here in alumni engagement is, yes, we have some signature programs. We have a hand in homecoming. We have some student programming that's kind of a marquee event now, the Dinner with 12 Titans, where alumni connect with students, they host students. So we have some of those. However, because we are the alumni office, and so if there are things that are happening in the industry or whatnot, and we have our peers at the colleges that are like, hey, business school, like this is happening and we'd love to get alumni there. And wow, like this is a program we didn't used to offer to alumni, but now we get to invite them. So our team has become, especially during COVID times, like has become an expert at pivoting. And so we really adapt a lot. And so we are lucky to have two program people that handle events, one that's student focused, one that's alumni focused. So they are able to take the lead on these things. But in the end, we're a small team, so we really help each other out. Our students are critical as well. And so, yeah, that's a little bit about what we do, of just creating those opportunities for engagement for our alumni. Like that's our main priority, as well as, kind of the student component as well, like not forgetting that bridge. And so that's kind of a little bit what we do. We also have our Alumni Association board. It's comprised of 19 elected alumni board members. And so they make big decisions on the nonprofit side of the house and what we do. And yeah, we kind of wear both hats. We serve the state institution and we serve the nonprofit part of our world, which is our Alumni Association.
And one of my favorite things, like you just mentioned about the Alumni Association, is that a lot of campuses, you might see a one-way street from students just becoming alumni and it ending there. And then maybe the alumni office just asking for money back from the alum. But what this does is it kind of brings the alumni back and fosters those connections. And there are a ton of ways. If I went to list them all, and this podcast would be way too long. But I mean, like one of the greatest ways is through the student alumni ambassadors. And if you join, you get this like, I think, cool t-shirt with like a cool logo on it and everything. And it kind of works with like fostering those connections. And because like you mentioned, 300,000 alumni, there's going to be someone who can help current students in no matter what industry that we are looking for or students are looking for. And there's always a way for Titans to give back after they graduate, and not just monetarily, even though monetarily is nice. There are ways, like you mentioned, that if other colleges on campus need someone to speak or need someone to review resumes, or just wants to host something like this where we have a podcast just to share the stories. It's quick, it's only an hour long, and in doing so, you have a good way of sharing a story along with a lot of pieces of advice that you can share from your specific experience to students who might be going through the same thing. So I feel like the Alumni Association is just as critical as any other campus or any other building on campus, as it makes sure that the transition from student to alumni is smooth and also brings back alumni to students. So again, there are like a ton of ways, like you mentioned, D12 is there, and we also have the Titan Pro network that we're going to plug at the end. But yeah, just so many ways. We have the Student Alumni Ambassador Network. You can just do so many things to get those connections.
And that's kind of the goal. And the more that students and alumni can take advantage of these opportunities, the better, because that's truly what we're here for. Like we're here at your service, And so you mentioned about the asking for money, and that's truly not all the ask. The ask is really, hey, we have this event on campus, or we're going to do scholarship readings and awards. Do you want to read scholarship applications? Like, yes, it's a commitment of time, but we're not asking for money. We're asking you to, review these applications to award a scholarship, which the association has the money for that, the funds for that. So, so that there's opportunities for engagement in that sense. Sometimes it's, hey, just come out to this, event that we're putting on. If it's a family-friendly event, bring everyone. This is your home. And so we just want to deliver that message to our alumni is we're not going to invite you to an event to ask you for money. We really just want you to come out to the event and see the campus and feel proud if you haven't been here. I mean, the Titan letters, those weren't here when I was in school here. So when I got to see those, I thought they were the most amazing thing. And I wanted to take all the pictures, brought my niece and nephew to take pictures because I just thought they were so neat. And so that's what we want to continue. Like if you haven't seen campus in a while, come back. If we are hosting an event out in your area, come out, like reconnect, like share these stories. Like I hadn't talked about being an ASI elections commissioner in a while. So, it's like it's sharing those things. And so that's what we're here for. And on the student side, it's, again, I completely understand being super shy and just kind of not wanting to get out there, but it's really important. And we find these opportunities or put together these programs to bring the alumni out to you so that you can meet them because they want to help. Every alumni we've interacted with that like D12 hosts, they are raising their hands saying, I want to host students. I want to hear what they're going through and maybe I can help. Maybe I can share an experience that might be helpful. Or, some hosts are super generous and even refer them to contacts and things like that. Like, so we're putting this together for you. Like, we're not getting anything out of it. Like, we're truly putting this together for both the student experience and the alumni to have a great experience. And hopefully the word spreads where it's like they tell their friends, hey, you should host one. The students were great, like da-da-da. So that's what we're here for, and that's what we do. I don't know if that kind of captures it a little bit, but it's never the same day. So that's what I love about it. It's always something different.
And I'm sure if like what we said does not convince you to be like an active alumni or reach out to alumni if you're a student, then I'm not sure what will, because again, there's so many great opportunities and you can head on over to like the website and just take a look at like what's going on, add it to your calendar. And again, if we went to list everything, it would take way too long, but that's basically what happens at the Alumni Association office. And
the best way is to our website, alumni.fullerton.edu, and on social media, because we're always posting on there if there's an opportunity or an upcoming event, etc. So to find out more, so follow us on social media, CSUF Alumni.
And just because it's called CSUF Alumni does not mean you have to be an alum to join. Students, feel free to join as well. Feel free to get in contact and feel free just to be active. Because again, this is another way that enhances your college experience by being a part of it. And I think I hit off like a lot of check boxes that you mentioned like throughout the podcast, a lot of the advice, working on campus, being active, joining the Alumni Association and being a part of that. So again, there are a lot of opportunities.
And if you had a wonderful Cal State Fullerton undergrad or graduate experience, and you do find yourself in that point of your career where you want to get back and want to reconnect, if you feel so inclined to become a lifetime member of the association, not only does that kind of enhance the information that you get from us, because you will get a monthly newsletter and things like that, but you get benefits as well, all listed online, and a portion of that membership fee does go back directly to our student scholarship fund. And so that's how we're able to fund these types of opportunities where we give back to students. And so become a lifetime member. That's my little plug, alumni.fullerton.edu.
There are going to be a lot of plugs this episode. So I guess like one of the last things that we need to touch on is any general advice or any advice that you have for students in communication. Just you can focus it or tailor it on any year. Just like what are some things that you picked up? Also working at different campuses as well, being a student at different campuses as well. Just things that you picked up that you just believe that, hey, look, if more students knew about this, they would be better off in their classes, getting a job or getting an internship.
My first advice would be certainly that as a fellow person who is shy is don't be shy, try to step out of your comfort zone and truly get involved on campus. It will change your entire experience. Like this whole concept of being a commuter campus, it goes away the moment you get a job on campus or join a campus org because you want to stay on campus. I loved it so much. I wanted to stay a fifth year. Parents didn't go for it, so I graduated. So the Spanish became a minor. It was supposed to be a double major, but it became a minor, so I could graduate. So I would say, don't be shy. Put yourself out there. You're only helping yourself in the long run because you're building connections. The second one would be, don't get frustrated. I mean, everybody's so job oriented because, we're all Cal State students. We know what it's like. And so, yes, the job was important to get after college. And so don't feel like stressed, rushed to land the perfect,
The six-figure income.
Don't stress yourself out on landing that six-figure salary off the bat. It truly embrace the journey and all the learning experiences that come with whatever choice you make. And so I would say, start building kind of those skill sets. And the last one, and I will only say this because I do work on a college campus and working with students is don't be afraid to truly put in the work, and try to go above and beyond, because you're up against these stereotypes of being, the, kind of privileged, or, the kind of not demanding, but, all those kind of stereotypes of your generation. And so don't be afraid to kind of prove them wrong, putting in the work and going through the journey and just trying to listen. Honestly, like I mentioned earlier, it was like a silly example, but it's true, is they needed someone to help steam clothes. And so I was like, gosh, it's when you think, no, I'm kind of above this, I have a college degree, and it's like, no, but you want to be in the room. It doesn't matter. It's all of it will be an experience, and you never know who you will meet, the things you'll learn. So just kind of take all the opportunities that you can.
Well, those are great bits of advice. And unless you have anything else to plug, I'll go ahead and plug. Wait, actually, do you want to plug Titan Pro Network?
So Titan Pro Network, if you're not on there already, you're missing out, because it is a place for Titans only. It is kind of our own private LinkedIn, if you will. And you have to be a Titan to be on there. So I'm on there. We have some faculty staff that are on there, and alumni and students. And so it's our own place to network within our own Titan family. And you can request informational interviews or just kind of interact with folks on there. So I highly encourage you, if you're not on there already, if you haven't created a profile, create one today and join Titan Pro Network.
Just a quick thing, D12 is a dinner with 12 Titans and an alum. Normally we do them in person, and hopefully in spring we get to do it in person again. But for now, it's mostly over Zoom. But it's a nice place where you can chat with an alum who is similar in background as you. Let's say they graduated in communications. You can meet with them, talk with them, and then you also have a cohort of students that are also meeting with that alum. So it's not just you interacting with them, it's you interacting with everyone around you. So again, like we mentioned in the beginning, getting out of your shell, and then just finding people, this is perfect for freshmen or people also looking for internships, jobs, and advice. They can get that by communicating with their peers, and then connecting with LinkedIn afterwards, getting their Instagram, and just staying in contact. So it's a bunch of these little things that people can do.
Yeah, and I would say, if this existed when I was a student, I would have definitely done multiple, because it's open to students, so of any freshman, sophomore, any class, and some folks leave it to that last semester, but it's try to get in as many as you can. And I mean, you mentioned specific to industry. So lately, the last couple we have done in that way, where who the host is, so that you can choose if it's, and they work somewhere what you find interesting. But regardless, if they're not, I think it's always great to meet them, because you don't know who their contacts are. You don't know what their network looks like. So even if it's someone kind of obscure, I don't really know what company that is, but hey, they chose to host you. So I say take them up on the opportunity and try to attend as many as you can.
So throughout this episode, perfect bits of advice and just a great experience of what your story is. So thank you so much, Rebecca, for joining us on the podcast today.
No, thank you for having me. And, I'm available online. You obviously found my website. So, so I'm happy to connect with you. If anyone needs anything at any point, has any questions, or is a fellow shy person, feel free to connect with me. I'm happy to chat.